Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back into the studio today. Today's lesson, we are headed back to the gouache station. I've shared many episodes on gouache, and I've got to tell you, I am really enjoying working with gouache. I am finding it to be very inspiring. Different ways of creating. I've been out plein air with it. I spend a lot of time in the studio at night with it. Today's lesson, I'm kind of going back to one of my very first loves. When I started painting in my early teens, I loved trees. I loved forest scenes and trees. So today's lesson in gouache, we're back in my Hanamuli sketchbook. I almost have it filled up, not quite, but we are looking at this dense forest scene. Now, this is just a close-up of the mystical forest, and I wanted just to try to get a sense of it. So this video is pretty long. If you want a step-by-step, there's a few time lapse in it, but it pretty much takes you through the process, because I really have 3 important tips today for you in how to level up your gouache paintings, how to get better at painting with gouache. So today in this video, I'm going to highlight 3 tips, 3 important elements that have helped me, which is the softening of edges and the contrast between your darks and your lights, and also holding off, right? Holding off till the end, like being preserve for the light at the end. So those 3 tips you're going to see through this video, and that is the finished piece. At the end, I talk to you about changes that I had to make compositional wise. Now it's funny, through the video I mentioned the spacing of the trees, but then I just spaced it out and I ended up with those trees lined up evenly. So I had to make a compositional change at the end, and to be honest, I filmed it and everything. I thought I filmed it. I went through, I talked my way through the changes, and I never hit record. So at the end of this video, you're going to see just a frozen image of the changes that were made. And that is just how it is. One of those things about electronics. You're trying to think film, you're trying to think paint, all those things at once. But anyway, here we go. Let's go down the lane of painting in gouache and some of those points that I think are very helpful. And we'll work on that today. As always, I thank you for following me. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't visited my blog, visit my blog. There's free lessons there. This is what it's all about. So all right, my friend, let's go watch this video, and I'll take you through my journey of painting this misty forest. I am working with a 1/2 inch silver silk 8/8. It's called an angle brush. So I will start the blocking in of the background behind these trees with this brush and see how I like it. Working with some white and that number 3 gray, neutral gray, touching in a little bit of cerulean blue as well. Just mixing a nice light mixture for the background. Now I like to work with my gouache a little bit thicker, more similar to using oil paint opposed to thin transparent washes. Now that doesn't mean I'll do that every single time, but predominantly I have found this is my preferred method. I'm going to just try and preserve my drawing a little bit where I have some of those more prominent tree trunks. The drawing could change. I am using that Stay Wet palette on the right. I've shown it before in other videos. I just love having that paint available, easy in access. It kind of helps me create more. I don't get lazy at night because I have to squeeze out a bunch of paint. I already have it ready. So I'm just continuing to use that Winsor Newton neutral gray number 3 with a little bit of some blue. Now I'm spraying that palette down a little bit, just keeping those colors wet. Let's just zip past some of this and speed up a little bit. I don't want all those shades to be the same. So once I've done that, I'm going to go in with just a little bit of a wet brush and model it a little bit. Now I left just those lines of where those trees are as a reminder. I like the mottled look. I don't paint in layers or transparency with my gouache. I like a little bit thicker. I just enjoy painting that process a little bit more of the thicker paint. Nothing on this brush. It's just a little moist. So now what I want to do is build that back layer of green. I'm going to change that brush that I was using. I'm trying a new brush from Silver, and it was the 1/2 inch Silver Silk 88 angle. Wasn't bad. They sent me some brushes to try out. Now this one I'm going to jump into a different brush. This is one that I bought. So I'm going to have a mix of brushes in this. This is a Princeton Velvet Touch 1/4 inch stroke. It's a muted green, so I was working with a little green earlier. I'm going to reactivate that green spot just by adding a little bit of the gray. Now I do use that gray there in my palette, although I know how to mix grays. Now we know this is going to dry a little bit darker. Let's see what this looks like. Well, I think that might be okay. Looks a little hard to edge to start. Can come and start working. So I haven't gone into the water. I've just wiped it with a paper towel. And I'm knocking the edge. I want to see what this is going to look like. Before I do all of it, I want to get a feeling, is that muted enough? I don't know if it is. There's a feeling, maybe a little bit of indigo. Let's put a little bit of indigo blue into that. You know, let's gray it a little bit more. Use some Venetian red and I'm gonna like that better. This first approach was too green. Let's knock that green back. Reserving, look at what's up in the front. So if we reserve now, like I've talked about in a lot of my oils where I'm putting in green, if you reserve long enough, it makes for beautiful areas of sparkle, flash, pizzazz. Probably going to get that brighter there. I'm not trying to replicate this photo exactly. I just want a feeling of organic stuff. Now, before I go any much further, I have that color still right there. I can come back in more, but I'm going to clean my brush off a little bit. I'm going to see about really softening this. So this is just coming back with a moist brush and disrupting the edge. When I disrupt the edge, I pick up some of the light underneath. It's reactivating. Ooh, I do love that about gouache. It's a pretty solid value and color all back there. It's not varied much until you start getting down here. You start seeing a few lighter greens. So I might have just a little bit more of a variation there than maybe what I would want, but I'm going to go with this. And it's because I started with a little bit too green. Now I know that tree is there, so I'm not worried about going in front of it a little bit at this point. I just wanted to keep the placement of it. Just want to disrupt the edges. And you might not like it in the beginning. It might look yuck. It takes a while. Now remember, that was a muted green, which we can use a little bit of the sap green and the gray, then indigo and Venetian red. More indigo and more green. Really hit that red heavily. Now that's going to dry a little bit lighter. A little bit more gray in it. Now I know some artists work in layers and thinner layers, but you know, I just guess it's the oil painter in me. I love to be able to move this around, put thick paint, and make a decision. So I'm just kind of pulling here with a wet brush. And I don't want to take all those little holes out of the picture. I want to leave me something to use, so to speak. Look how far of usage I can get with some of that. And there's no paint on my brush. I'm just washing it out. Still don't think this is as gray as my image. Probably should have brought some of that light down. I'm just trying to create little layers of greenery. What if I wanted to put some light back in there? So you can do it. I'm spotting just a little bit back in that solid area. And you can't brush it, you just dot it in and leave it. Don't do polka dots. Try to merge them together. Now I'm seeing a touch more blue down into, as we move down, there's a little bit of blue down in here that's pretty. So I think I'll pull that in there. My palette gets dirty. The discipline that I teach in oil, you're not going to see it here. It gets dirty. I am a dirty gouache painter. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine. Like my gray, see how it's got all that stuff in it? I just go with it. I'm still using the same brush. I'm just going to spend some time doing the same thing. So I'm not going to talk. I just want to make sure I bring all of this down far enough so when I do start coming back with other elements, I've given myself what I need. I'm just working my way. This stuff takes time. Kill all those hard edges going out into that mystical light. It's actually kind of nice where some of the little bit thinner paint is. I use washi tape. Sometimes it doesn't stick perfect, but I would rather it stick a little less because it won't tear the page. Occasionally it wants to tear. I lay it down on here first, pull it out, lay it down, and get lint off of this cloth. Then I lay it up there. So I kill some of the stickiness. Hey, this is coming along right there. I'm seeing something right here that I like. I have to squint, but even without squinting, I'm getting a feeling of something happening there. This is remaining a little too dark over there. Remember, the values with gouache are tricky. Now I want it getting a little darker down here. That's that depth down deep inside. So I think I'm okay with that. I put some of those in earlier and I took them back out again, lightening that. So this is a little dark over here. So I'm going to come back with some light. I hit my palette occasionally with just a slight spray. I'm careful on spraying this because it can sometimes put too much water in your mixture. I'll use some water, but don't overuse it at the same time. Painting back in some negative shapes here. I'm just looking at negative shapes back up in that area. The reason why I use this palette, it makes me, I don't know if the word makes, it creates an ability for me to get to painting faster. I don't have to get out a bunch of tubes. I do have a gouache station that is set up all the time, but I just like this. I babysit it once a week or so if I'm not painting, and go in and, you know, re-wet it and spray it and check on it. I never have a mold problem, but I am in Arizona. But I think it makes me paint. There could be nights when I'm lazy and I think, I don't know if I want to do that. Because I'm typically doing these studies. This is fun for me. This is all this is my fun time, my exploring time. And I'm usually doing this at night. I don't ever do this in the day. In the day, I'm working on deadlines with my oils, or I'm working with my online course, or doing a Zoom meeting with my students. So that's my day schedule, and I don't allot time for this type of play. If you get a little bit dark, just come back up there. I feel like that area was a tad bit dark. Up towards the top, keep it lighter. Sometimes if I take a break, I'll just drop that lid over that palette. I stepped out for a second. Just knocking back, reactivating and softening edges. Through little bits of this violet
mauve blue mixture over here to liven up just a tad bit of this color. I see little bits of a violet in there, so I kind of wanted to throw it in there. A lot of times I will mix with my gouache what I call air color. I just carry it on over here too, but that's mixed with the ultramarine blue, the white, and the red. And you can sometimes use either red depending on what direction I'm taking it. I can go the Venetian red or I can go the cadmium red if I'm wanting to go grayer, more orangey gray. I'll use the Venetian. I'll dance around with it. Now I'm going to go back and reactivate edge work some more. It's sort of like smudging. There's really no water on my brush. It's just damp. I'm knocking back predominantly all the hard edges. I don't want anything there to haunt me later. Not that I couldn't fix it later, but the more I can accomplish with a mystical mystery look back there, the better, I think. What I can do now is to my advantage. So I like some of the leafy look that I got already, the very delicate look of the leaf shape. Even though they're in the distant, it's still reading like foliage. So I want to make sure that I have all of that where I want it before I move on to the next step. Like that I got all this deep dark down there. For what reason, Ian's? Think about, so there's a very beautiful green, very probably going to be possibly focal point right here. I think the green up here is not in the right place for focal point. If you look at the golden means, I think right here, and I was drawn to that plant right there. So that's another reason why I want to make sure that I have all that nice dark deep green down far enough into the picture plane. So that was sap green. So your sap green and your indigo and a red. Now you can use Venetian red or you can even use cad red light. Or I'm sorry, cadmium red. I think it's cadmium red. Indigo helps gray it just a little bit more. Now the red will gray, but I'm liking what the indigo does for me, mixing it with green. Now we know this is going to dry lighter. Now I'm going to soften those edges, but I'm going to just lighten this a little bit and play up. Just wondering what would happen if I start with a few designs, some of the distant tree stuff, farthest back. You don't have to be afraid. It's all fixable. All fixable. If they don't lighten up enough, go back and knock them back. Let's say you get one like that shape you don't like. All you do is just come back with your brush, and just knock into it. Now let's soften all of this, disrupt the hard edge. Just a moist brush. I might want those to be softened ever so slightly. Just to hit it with this damp brush, that's all you do. And it knocks them back, it softens an edge, it loses an edge. It's fun. I mean, you could use a small liner brush if you felt like you needed it. This is chiseling so nicely. I'm almost like, why dirty another brush at this point? I want you to be able to enter here. Now we're going to have some real dark ones in the front, but let's be careful with what we're doing there. Now, it's not that I can't come back. Let's say you stop right here for your session, your painting session. Well, you just stuff reactivates so nicely. So I'm feeling like I got all the dark, so that next step, you know, might be just to like push one more spot. And I'm not going to go thick. I'm going to keep it a little bit more pliable, just a little bit lighter. I don't want to cover up all that yellow. I got a little lemon yellow look going on that I'm actually kind of liking. All I'm doing is adding variety. So I think maybe that's a pretty good place. I don't like the one tree. Now, I want to knock that tree back a little bit. Let's push him back a little bit. You saw me do some of those in that little dash mark line, like little dashes. I kind of do that on purpose so that they don't look too harsh. We've got the Princeton Velvet Touch, stroke 1/4, the number 6 snap, round. Okay, so yeah, I'm still working on that background, adding more light, changes. You're just going to find as gouache dries, that's the biggest challenge in it, is those values and color shifts. But it's okay. You learn with each one. I'm going to push this a little bit greener. Maybe just a tad bit too blue. Think I like just a little bit more gray-green. And I can create that variety and let some of the blue be in there. Then using a little bit of that black, mixing into it just to gray things down a bit. But I do like that better. Just a touch greener. So I am a bit heavy with indigo down here at the base. Yeah, sometimes you have to run away with indigo. It's just a little bit too midnight blue. Not sure how it's appearing on your screen, but I'm just toning that down a bit. You have to watch that indigo. It can be pretty strong. All right, I'm going to get this pretty dark down front. Okay, so let's do some softening back here in that background area. This is a travel brush by Utrecht, the number 1. It's got a nice fine point on it. I'm going to build these tree trunks with this brush using a little bit of my Venetian red and indigo, which will lean it towards the red side, and that's going to give it just a little bit of a midnight blue but towards a red tint. Don't want it too blue, I don't want it too red. I want it just a nice perfect dark to set those trees up. The lighter they are in value, that means they're further. So those that you want to be back behind, we go with a way lighter value. Some of that natural gray and white, touches of green in it. And just keep building these. You're going to have to watch the distance between those. Those look like army soldiers at the moment. I'm going to have to vary that. Sometimes that will happen. You'll just get them lined up so perfectly spaced. You can start dropping some of the poetic branches down lower. Okay, just going to be a lot of detail putting in a lot of little branches, just stuff back in, all of that. You can overdo, but you do want some. So let's just speed this up and throw in a lot of tree language back in the back. So let's work along the edge of where all those bushes are. And my green in there is a Winsor Newton permanent green light. I'm going to use it mixed with some yellow ochre, and the Winsor Newton cadmium yellow Pell is the yellow that I have there. That's Winsor Newton yellow ochre above it in the Stay Wet palette. So I'm just going to start mixing a beautiful green for that edge of dense forest work. And it's got white in it, of course, too. So let's dance along this edge with some greens and see what we can develop here. I'm going to take some of these beautiful light greens up into the trees on that branch that's leaning into the picture. Maybe do a few intricate leaf shapes. So this is just more of the same, building a lot of foliage, greenery. Now I'm working up close and up front. And you want to highlight specific little leaves, come back in with little darks, lights. It's just a push and pull, just a back and forth. That was not as light as it looked. That was a glare off of the light. You can see that's darkening up there on the left that I just put on. That was just shining glare from the lights. Now, right up here in this very important area, I'm going to start bringing out some sparkle. I've really lightened that with my cadmium yellow pale by Winsor Newton, some white, a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm really bringing that up. And there's times I might have to hit it twice because this does darken. So your lights go dark and your darks go light. That's that whole gouache scenario. So a possibility of having to come back in again, but just keep working it. I'm coming in with a few small branches. Suggest some of that branch work up in the foreground, and that's with my indigo blue and Venetian red, or could be burnt sienna, whichever I chose to use, probably burnt sienna. So at this point, I'm going to start pulling some foliage over the tops of those trunks for the organic growth that's growing in front of them, branches coming forward. Just following through, lots to do to build this forest scene. Okay, some more splashes of bright green down in that foreground. Just tweaking a little bit more. That Winsor Newton permanent green light with a little bit of white, yellow ochre mixed with it. Different values. Okay, well then that's a wrap. Get to remove the washi tape carefully. Most of the time it comes off without any issues. Occasionally it will try to rip, but this is the best part, right? The painting is
finish. So we have this forest scene, and I'm actually going to go in and just work on a little bit more of the spacing between those tree trunks. Probably either going to get rid of one or maybe add something. You can see how the space is exactly even between all those. So yep, that's going to have to happen, and then that will finish out this piece. But hopefully you've learned from this, and it's taking you down a pathway of how to build these dense forest scenes. So see these spaces? That's what I'm referring to. I'm going to work back in and change that. It's just something that we do, spacing things, us humans. And I was so busy doing all the other, I missed that. So let's fix that. Okay, I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you enjoyed that journey. I know it was a little lengthy, but my point in just going ahead and playing it lengthy, and I actually shortened it. You know, I shortened that. There's a lot of cuts and some time lapse because it was a couple hours worth of painting. But here's my point. Why I decided to keep this a little bit longer is to let you know it takes a while to get over the hump. Or maybe I should say it takes a while to get through the forest. They're not easy to paint, my friend. It takes some work to get the modeling of that misty feeling and then building out in front of it, getting your values. And as we know, the gouache values can be tricky. They play tricks on us. But otherwise, it just takes time. So give yourself time to get through the ugly stage on your paintings. Don't get discouraged. Just keep pushing the brush. All right, my friends, remember to subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you visit the blog if you're looking for other lessons. I have a boatload of lessons for you there. Lots of things to learn, lots of stuff to just tweak little thoughts in your head and give you ideas, and especially keep you creating. All right, my friends, have a great creative day. I'll see you at the next lesson.